Hello, I'm Casey Aiken, and this is 21 This Week. Coming up next, who exactly wants to make it easier for the county council to raise property taxes? And other than Mark Elrich, who's opposed to term limits for the county executive? Does the assassination attempt on Donald Trump change the dynamics of the race? And once again, if it's not Biden, then who? Our panel of insiders will give you the story behind the story. We're joined by Laurie Halverson, a member of the Montgomery County Republican Central Committee, and civic activist Cary Lamari. Stay tuned for these stories and more on the next 21 This Week. Most state and local governments fund their budgets primarily by means of the property tax. Montgomery County is no exception. And all politicians play games with the budgets they are required to prepare, even ones that are supposed to be quote unquote balanced budgets as required by law. And Americans understandably don't love property taxes. And they have taken incredible steps over the years to control politicians from raising property taxes willy-nilly, as evidenced by the California Proposition 13 initiative passed in 1978, which limited property taxes to 1% of the property's assessed value, which was a major national big deal. And also in 1978, in neighboring Prince George's County, voters passed a tax reform initiative that froze the county's ability to raise property taxes. They were so upset. Coming full circle back to Montgomery County, in 2008, Montgomery County voters required a unanimous vote of all sitting council members to increase the budget if the budget was going to be greater than the rate of inflation. Cary, there's now a proposal that would reduce the number of council members to 8 out of 11, a 2/3 majority of the council members. What is this all about?
It's about more money for the schools. People need to remember, we have a $7.1 billion budget. Over half of that, or almost half of that, is our school budget, $3.3 billion. Last year, we increased our taxes at 4.7%. Every jurisdiction around Montgomery County did not raise their taxes, okay? This year, we gave the school system 99.2% of what they asked for. So essentially, people, certain members of the county council would like to, make it easier for them to be able to, pacify their interest groups, okay? The beauty of having a full council voting on the budget is you really know that there's a need to increase those taxes when they pass that. It puts the public at ease. So I'm all in favor of keeping it.
Well, Laurie, one opponent of the bill or the proposed bill is quoted as saying that it's time to stop using taxpayers as an ATM. Do you think here in Montgomery County, remembering the old adage that that Councilman Howie Dennis would say, Montgomery County, we love our services, but we hate our taxes. What do you think?
I really felt like I was being used as an ATM when I got my tax bill last week. My tax bill went up from $10,000 a year to $11,000 a year, up by 10%. And I was trying to figure out exactly how it was calculated, but it was based on an increased valuation of almost $100,000 of my house, which I know didn't really happen in the past year or two. But so that makes me really feel like, what the heck is going on? And then when I look at what they did last year, the recordation tax was huge. You can now go online. There's a website. I was just like Googling, and I was able to calculate what my recordation tax used to be versus what it would be now. And it went from $3,000 to $15,000. So when I try to sell my house, if I was trying to sell my house, I would have to pay 5 times more than I did before. What the heck is going on? I mean, and then I read that it didn't even help overall because the tax receipts went down. Well, I think that's a lesson in saying, hey, when you increase taxes like that, or if you increase the tax rate, the tax base goes down, people leave. So yeah, I feel like I'm an ATM.
Well, the good news is that if you don't like your tax assessment, you can appeal it. You can appeal it, and most companies that do the appeal will only charge you if they're successful in getting your taxes down. So it's
Okay.
government loves money, 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 money.
Yeah.
So it's not a surprise, and they always want to make it easier for them to raise taxes. Let's go on to our next topic, and this is a fun topic because for the past several weeks we've been discussing the prospect that there would be an amendment to the county charter to limit the number of terms that an individual may serve as county executive to only 2 terms. Mark Elrich, are you listening? Laurie, opponents of the 2T amendment criticize the low threshold for initiating a charter amendment and that it is a private grudge against the current county executive, Mark Elrich, by his political opponent who couldn't win a fair election, Reardon Sullivan. What do you think?
I don't think it's a private grudge. I think it was a brilliant move by Reardon Sullivan because he knew that this would hit a nerve with most voters, including Democrats, and more Democrats than Republicans have signed the petition. And it was also a great way to energize all the Republicans in the county who want to be involved. It is a bipartisan effort to get signatures, but I know a lot of Republicans have been involved and very enthusiastic about getting signatures because it's something that we're used to going up to people and they don't want to talk to us here in Montgomery County, but everyone is like, sure, I'll sign it. They don't want to see, they think it makes good governance, good sense to change the.
Yeah, well, we got to watch what we pray for. So, Cary, this is really watching sausage being made. If Sullivan has the required number of signatures, the county council cannot block the amendment from appearing on the ballot, but the county council can promote a competing amendment that might derail it, just like they did, a couple years ago when when there was a proposal to go to individual 9 councilmanic districts. So what is the likelihood that this council will throw Mark Elrich a lifeline?
You have to remember, Mark has always had a tenuous relationship with the county council. In the last council, I mean, everything that Mark did, they just jumped on him and they attacked him to disarray him. You know what I'm saying? In this election, you have to bear in mind, if you change the dynamics of 3-year terms to 3-year for the council, 2-year for the county executive, what you're doing is you're affecting the balance of power. You're making the council a more powerful governing body because that county executive is not going to have the same authority that last term. He's going to be a lame duck council member, and that's going to be a cyclical every 2-year thing. Now, in previous executives like Doug Duncan, for example, we had a more powerful, robust county executive than we did county council. Do you really want to turn that around? I don't know.
So what I hear from my, not just from reading in the newspaper, but also from some sources, is that there is heavy lobbying going on to the county council to come up and support a proposal that Mark Elrich has floated, where it would allow him to serve a 3rd term if it's not consecutive. So, I mean, there's a lot of lobbying going on. And the reason that this is being done, because if they pass both of those under state law, there is a theory that they nullify one another. Yeah. So there's a lot of lobbying going on, the county council. It'll be interesting to see. And as I commented last week when we talked about this, there's a lot of hungry councilmen who would love to run for county executive. We're going to see what'll happen. All right, when we come back from this short break, will the attempted assassination of Donald Trump change the dynamics of the presidential race? And if not Biden, then who? Stay tuned.
When I first saw Turtle, my heart was full. Now anything but lonely.
We had this deep connection, this heart connection.
He just wants to be close to you and part of your life.
Every day with Turtle is a perfect day.
When I'm holding her, it makes me feel calmer.
I think everything he does shows how much he loves us.
When we adopt a shelter pet, we discover they're a little bit of a lot of things.
But they're all pure love.
And welcome back. You know, what a crazy year 2024 has proved to be politically. There are things happening in 7 days that you can't imagine happening in a lifetime. And many people have compared the political campaigns of this year to the volatile campaigns in 1968, which included the assassination of Robert Kennedy and the Reverend Martin Luther King. This past Saturday, those comparisons became too real, too vivid, and too close as an assassin's bullet grazed the right ear of former President Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. Laurie, I'm going to go to you as the Republican on the panel. What impact will the attempt on President Trump's life have on the race?
I think will have a big impact. I think we're already seeing a change in Trump, and he's changed, but everyone else has changed, I think, too. I was testifying at the county council and afterwards ended up chatting with a young man who, a Democrat, and he wasn't alive when Reagan was shot. He had never seen this happen before to any president. So he told me it really affected him. And you know, he's no fan of Trump, but he just realized this is horrible what happened. And so I think maybe it's waking some people up from their Trump derangement syndrome. Although others, I think, their colors are even showing more, and they're upset at some of the things that people are saying, like, oh, God saved Trump. And some people think that's horrible to say something like that. That they're likening it to, you know, other events where children were killed from assassin. So it's interesting to see how people are reacting to this. And I think the people who still have Trump derangement syndrome, it's showing a lot more now. And people are like, hey, I'm not going to listen to you anymore. So,
well, I mean, it's true that people are going to vote for or against Donald Trump based on what they feel about him. But the real question is, what does it do to the dynamics of the race? And Cary, I mean, obviously, there is some turmoil in the Democratic Party, but what will this attempted assassination do to the overall scope of the presidential race?
First of all, we need to start out with the premise that violence has no place in society, okay, especially in politics. All right, let's put that on the table. But you have to bear in mind one thing: our candidates are responsible for their own actions, for their own behavior, and sometimes that shapes what happens to them. And I'm not blaming Trump for you know what happened to him, but I will say I will blame Trump for the bad behavior that has been in politics for the last several years. I mean, who could forget Crooked Hillary, Carla Fiora, the misogynistic attack on her appearance, Nikki Haley, Nimbra, Ted Cruz. He attacked his wife Heidi, and he also attacked his father Raphael, suggesting that he participated in JFK's assassination. Little Marco Rubio, Obama, Kenya, crooked Joe Biden. What happened to Nancy Pelosi's husband? The reality is, when you have someone who is a bully, who is distasteful, and as far as I'm concerned, Trump is distasteful. So you can accuse me of Trump derangement syndrome. When you have that, you're going to get reaction. Should it be violent? Absolutely not. That's just absurd. And this, I think, will have a short-term benefit for Trump, but in the long term, by the election, people are going to know who Trump is. He's going to let his character shine through. Thank you. That's all I got to say.
So, Laurie, any response?
Yeah, well, I do think it also helped shift the whole idea of his campaign to reach the everyday man. So I think that in the past week, we've seen a major shift, especially with his pick of J.D. Vance and how he's appealing to the single mom, the worker who's in manufacturing, whether they're in a union or not. I mean, I think the Republicans have finally found their niche and will reach more people now that this has happened. The Republican convention was phenomenal this week, and I think it reached a lot of people.
Cary, last word.
I'm not going to disagree with you. Sean O'Brien's speech at the Republican National Convention was the most laudable speech I've heard in decades. I sure hope he comes to the Democratic National Convention, because the bottom line is there is corporate welfare, and the average working man does need a helping hand. So that's my final word here.
I think, I mean, I know we're talking about the assassination, Tim, and it's just an unbelievably unthinkable event that occurred. And I echo your sentiments, Cary, that there is no place in our politics or in our society for that kind of violence. And it reminded me of the assassination attempt on George Wallace in 1972, where a loner who had actually gone to Canada to stalk, the Republican candidate, was frustrated there, came back to the United States and shot George Wallace here in Laurel, Maryland. Arthur Bremer. So it's a very sad state of affairs. Now I'm going to shift gears, and we got to talk. We talked about this last week, because there's in the 3 weeks since the debate between President Biden and former President Trump, there's been a lot of dissension in the Democratic Party, and there's even rumors and pressure from so-called Democratic leaders that President Biden should abandon the playing field. What do you think, Cary?
I feel like Rod Stewart in the Twilight Zone, to be quite honest with you. I mean, this whole experience has been unbelievable. My heart goes out to Joe Biden. My mother started to have dementia and those kind of issues at the tail end of her life, and you know how that works. I think it's time for Joe to step down. I think he's done his service to the United States for our benefit.
But won't that just create a collateral, problem within the Democratic Party?
It's not
as to who's going to pick up that mantle.
That problem will come about, and it's no one's fault. When someone starts to decline in health, and they don't even realize it, don't even see it in themselves, then society has to pick up the pieces. And that's where we're at. With respect to who's going to take over, I'm sure the DNC will find a quick way to bring people to and get them involved in the system. And we're going to have to do that. And we've got 5 weeks to make it happen.
Laurie, your thoughts on the situation in the Democratic Party?
Yeah, I think that the DNC, I mean, look at what's going on. Jamie Raskin, Adam Schiff, and Chuck Schumer, and all these people are circling around Biden. And I think that Biden, they've known since the pandemic, when he was in his basement, they've known that he's had dementia, and they've been hiding it all along, and how unfair this is to the Democrat voters. And they are just, it's like, oh, gee, I noticed it when I saw the debate. That's when I started noticing. I was like, come on, you guys should, I mean, Republicans have known all along that he's had problems with his memory. So I just feel like this is this is a show, and they're gonna probably throw in Wes Moore as a possibility, one of maybe the top three. And I feel like Kamala is gonna be, maybe one of those three as an option at the DNC convention, but she's gonna be thrown out real quickly, because I mean, come on,
that is a heck of a prediction there, Laurie.
Yeah, she's just
so
not.
Let me summarize this.
Yeah.
Are you predicting that Joe Biden will withdraw from the race?
I think he's going to be pushed out hard.
Cary, what do you think?
Yeah.
First of all, there's a process that's in place. Okay. As I said earlier, a person with dementia can't rationalize things as well as if you didn't have it. So, and we're not doctors. You can't just kick somebody out and say, you have dementia when you're not a professional and you haven't done a proper diagnosis. So yeah, I think he's going to leave. I think that the Democratic Central Committee will come up with another candidate. I don't think it's going to be Wes Moore.
Well, I don't want it to be Wes Moore, but
here's what I think. We'll talk.
possible.
Laurie, let me interrupt for a second.
Okay.
This is what I think. I don't think Joe Biden's going anywhere, because only Joe Biden can determine whether he withdraws or not. He's got all the convention votes locked up, and only he can determine. And I believe, the old athlete in me says nobody is going to. I am not going to take myself off the playing field. You're going to have to come kicking and dragging and, drag me off, and I'm going to keep fighting until the very end. Joe Biden believes that he, in 2016, would have beaten Donald Trump, that he got pushed aside because for Hillary Clinton by Barack Obama and the Clintonistas. He believes that he is the only man that could have won in 2020, the only person that could have won in 2020, excuse me. And he believes that he is still the only person who has the chance to beat Donald Trump. I don't know how. It's inconceivable that Joe, Jill, and Hunter is going to throw in the towel.
They're not going to do it alone. They're going to have doctors help them make that decision for the American people.
You really think that?
I believe that.
I just don't see it. Laurie.
Yeah, I do think that it is going to be hard for him to make that decision. And I think it's time for others to make the decision for him. The loved ones need to really make that decision. Will Jill do that? I don't know. I can't believe Hunter's in the middle of all this too. If he does go, he'll probably pardon his son before he goes out.
Well, as I said, here's what I do hope. If he's going to decide one way or the other, I hope he does it next week, because we have one more show before we go on vacation. Yeah. I hate being selfish about it, but I want to be able to have one more show to talk about it. And yes. I really think, for the good of the nation, a decision has to be made soon. And again, personally, I don't think Joe's as bad off as everybody else does. He seems to be able to be quite competent for a lot of public appearances, and I think he's still in charge. In any event, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you all. Good insight. And when we come back, stay tuned for Party Shots.
Jordan knows he shouldn't eat this entire bowl of nachos, but tonight he's earned that right, because a few hours ago in the middle of happy hour, he recognized a sign, not from the gods or a bolt of lightning, but from a double heart, a kissy face, and a fourth ha in ha ha ha. That's when Jordan knew he was buzzed. So when it was time to go, he got a ride home instead of driving. Be a legend like Jordan. Recognize your buzzed warning signs and get a ride home. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
And welcome back. Now with Parting Shots, I'm actually going to take the first one this week. I had lunch yesterday with Susan Heltemus, the former co-host of the program, and she told me about the devastating electrical fire at the Interfaith Works Women's Shelter on Crabs Branch Road. The fire thankfully did not result in a loss of life, but it did displace up to 37 women who were sheltered there. The temporary housing that they have been given, where these women have been placed, does not have a working kitchen. And there is a desperate need for prepared meals and financial support. So yesterday, I made a contribution to buy something as simple as iced tea for these women to have something to drink. So if anyone in the audience is interested in providing a meal or delivering meals donated by a restaurant, please contact Interfaith Works Director of Faith and Community Partnership, Rosalind Roberts, at 301-762-8682. Again, 301-762-8682, extension 251. And if you'd like to make a donation, you do make the donation at givebutter.com. Now with their own parting shots, Cary Lamari.
Real quick, 2 items. We're in a summer wave of a COVID issue or an incident, please be careful, do whatever it takes to prevent your family from being affected. Secondly, there's an issue with respect to food insecurities in Montgomery County. The man-of food centers didn't get as much money as they expected to get, and they need volunteers to hand out food at food centers where they hand it out. They need food products. They also need money. They didn't get, ever since the pandemic relief funds kind of dried up, it's affected people in need in Montgomery County. So get out there and give.
Thank you, Cary.
Thank you.
Well, Laurie, we seem to be being very, very community organized or focused this week. What's your parting shot?
I think I do want to add something about the community as well. We really need to figure out some way to reach people who are mentally ill. And this young man who was the assassin last week, he was not noticed by people. He was bullied. He was, we've got to figure out how schools can identify these people and help them before they do something like this catastrophe. It's a crisis. We've got to fix the problem.
Well, it's not just the schools, it's the families. I mean,
yes,
families
definitely
have to be involved with the mental health of their children, not just the physical health of their children. But great point, both of you. Thank you so much. I want to thank you for being here on what is not a really hot July day, but I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank the audience for tuning in each and every week to Montgomery County's hardest hitting political talk show. For 21 this week, I'm Casey Aiken.